you have a strategy this year different than you were able to, in other words, because of your experience, do you have a new strategy or thought? I mean, you don't have to share it, but do you have a strategy this year that you couldn't have had last year?
I think this year I would probably, my plan is to go a little bit slower earlier on.
Even if people are passing you?
Even if people are passing me, yes, because I know how great I felt later in the race last year, and how hard I was able to push late in the race. That you know, the other unique thing about this race is there's no pacers. You can see your crew after the 50-mile mark every 15 to 20 kilometers, but the fact that you don't have a pacer to keep pushing you, it's good, I think, to have the competition. I mean, I want to be in the thick of things. I want to be up there with the front runners, definitely after 60 miles, but I'm going to really watch out that I'm not pushing too hard earlier in the race. I mean, last year I think I came through the marathon mark at 3:10, 3:15 range, which I think was a little bit quick. Even along the coast there, the rocks really beat down on you with the heat bouncing off of the rocks.
Right.
So I think that's...
Well, even though that what's the guy that has the record here? I mean, he came through there one time. What did you tell me his time was?
Well, Yannis Kouros, when he set the record, Yannis Kouros, he came through the marathon mark in 2 hours, 50 minutes.
That's just insane, right?
So, he ran a sub 3-hour marathon. He then went on to run 5.5 hours for the first 50 miles. And then, keep in mind, this is rolling terrain, it's running through hills. It's not a flat course, so he ran, that first third of the race quite hard. Imagine running 6-minute, 15-second miles for the first marathon, and that's what he did.
That's pretty intense.
So, my intentions are hopefully this year I can push harder after the 50-mile mark. After it starts to cool down and feel stronger. Last year I had a bad stretch, a bad patch through, starting around 40 miles, and it didn't really quite clear up until probably 70 miles. So I had a really tough marathon stretch there.
When you say bad stretch, what was happening?
My stomach was starting to feel the effects of dehydration, a hard pace early on, my legs weren't feeling super strong. I wouldn't say my legs were too bad, but I think the biggest issue is the dehydration, the heat. I mean, all I could talk about, remember coming into the aid station, was wanting ice and being cooler. So this year I'm going to take precautions such as having ice, making sure that I stay cooler earlier in the day, and then when the temperatures drop at night, I'll be in a good position and feeling good to push the pace more.
And so you've done a lot of research since, I'm sure you did research last year before the race, but since the race, it seems like you've read some more stuff. You got that one pamphlet from the founder of the race.
I actually had that last year, yeah. John Foden had that pamphlet. Last year I read up pretty much, I'd have to say, last year I did more research. This year I'm drawing off of experience of knowing the course a little bit more. Last year we drove the course. Crazy story is that we... Oh, you drove the entire course? We drove the entire course. And it was like a scavenger hunt. I mean, we basically, went from... we had a course description, but the course description was very vague. We had very detailed road maps from Greece, but what we had what was excellent was the aid stations and where they were. However, some of those descriptions would be, open area on the right with old farmhouse. Well, that could be, every corner in, rural Greece. So it was, like a scavenger hunt. We'd try to go from one aid station, find the next spot. Okay, this seems like we're at the right spot. Now onto this one, and we'd follow the roads, and it took us almost 2 days to follow the course. It took us longer to drive the course than it did for me to run it.
My God, well, was it helpful?
And it's very well marked during the race, but we did this a week and a half before the race started. It was very helpful to know what to expect. So this year, I'm definitely feeling good. Wow, look at the devastation over there with the fires.
Oh my God. So in the process of finding a new race and being the first American to win this race, that must have been pretty special too, right? You were the first American to win this race?
Yes.
And this is the 25th year this year.
Yes.
So you kind of came on an interesting time in the history of this race. But not only the race, you found a new race, but I mean, it seems to me like you found a new culture too, like you were saying, and especially for you, the food, right? The food is just. What's you've like seemed to be captivated by Greek food. I mean, not that you weren't before, but you're getting to see and taste things you never did before here, right?
And it's, really when you look at the Greek cuisine, it's nothing. It wasn't like earth-shattering. I have to say, like going to Japan, you're eating various seaweeds and mushrooms and a lot of the different pulses and beans and legumes that I've gotten to learn more about in Greece. I've had in the U.S., but I guess the simplicity, but also the care with food. I mean, the Greek cuisine is quite simple in terms of the ingredients, but the care that's put in the meals, the value of the olive tree, the olive oil, and the history of these things, dates back thousands of years. So that to me is, when food has survived. I mean, if you look at our culture, I think, in the U.S., and how readily we're just willing to throw that all away for more processed food, more convenience foods, and obviously that could have a history, but the history of some of these ancient foods. I mean, why have people? I'm most interested in traditional whole foods, and I think that's where Greece is like this beautiful place to experience that. And you gotta love the weather here. You have to love the people. You have to love the just everything about this place. Captivated us from the very beginning.
We are at a local shop where, I mean, a store, a roadside stall. This guy's selling honey and different herbs, and Scott and Leah are buying stuff. That was thank you in Greek. Another roadside stand. Scott has decided he needs something.
Walnuts.
So what do you got here, Scott?
This is apples. There's walnuts here, but I don't know what these are.
Listen to this music.
I think this is the oil, massage oils.
So where are we going right now?
Sparty!
What's very fascinating is he got to Sparti, and at the time King Leonidas was the king of Sparti. And when he got to Sparti, the Spartans were having a religious ceremony and feast. And they actually turned down Phidippides and said that they could not come because of the special feast that they were having. So Phidippides actually had to turn around and bring the message back that the Spartans were not going to be coming to help the Athenians.
Oh, he had to run back?
Yes. So
that's how you deliver a message.
That's how you deliver a message. So, there's no internet back then, Ted.
Oh, shit.
So, what's interesting is Yannis Kouros followed, actually wanted to do the out and back from Athens to Sparti and back to Athens. And so I think it was 3 years ago, Yannis, on his own, along with I think some folks that helped him out, he ran the out and back from Athens to Sparti and back to Athens.
Wow.
I forget how many, he did it in a pretty amazing time. So he wanted to commemorate that route of out and back. And he's of course won the race.
Basically 500 kilometers.
So yeah, it was almost 500 kilometers. It was 492 kilometers.
The best water.
Must have Spartan water.
So Scott's collecting his water here at this natural spring. This is for the race, so if it works, we'll know by in about 48 hours or so.